Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be talking to you guys and hopefully explaining to you guys how to get more damage in raids. Let me show you, because in the previous raid I got a score of like 36 million and my guild leader got 46 million, and I'm like, okay, I think maybe if I'm super lucky and I spread things out, I might just maybe be able to score 48, maybe 50 million if I'm lucky, and just barely surpass my guild leader. Well, I did everything I could, and turns out it makes a big difference, like a lot bigger than what I was expecting. So let me show you guys the damage that I ended up getting literally on the very next raid by doing everything properly. 69 million. And if I hadn't been lazy on one or two fights where I didn't dodge one or two abilities and ended up getting one of my teammates killed, that would have been 70 million raid damage. And so that's almost double. Like, not far off at all. I'd say an extra 5% and it would have been doubled last raid's damage. And so hopefully I can help you guys increase your raid damage to get you guys into top 100s, maybe even top 20s. If you can get my damage, you should be able to get into a top 50 guild at least. Let's begin. Alright guys, so this is my main team right here. And what I did on raids before was I just used my main team and then I tried to put together a YOLO whatever team of basically any other strong characters I had left. And I didn't really put much consideration in, probably something like this, where I would just mash them up, except these are my main teams. Well, anyways, it would be something like this, but it'd be a bunch of side characters like Coco, right? And so I just put this mess of a team. They wouldn't be matching. Maybe some would be countering the boss, but it was mostly just, okay, who has high DPS? And I haven't used them yet. So, okay, first two gone. Okay, I can put Akayuki into the team. Beth is gone. Okay, I can put, what's her name? Arabelle into the team. Surprisingly, I can put Ayoba, and no, Eugene is gone. Okay, Tinia. And then this would be my team. That was not very smart and wouldn't have gotten me very far, which made perfect sense as to why I didn't get that much raid damage before. Second, while these characters do have high DPS, my main character, Akayuki, in this team, isn't very tanky. And so, you see, you want your main character to be kind of tanky. You kind of want all of them to be tanky if you're in like a top 20 or top 50 guild, because you're gonna end up fighting bosses that are stronger. If you're not in one of those guilds and you just want high raid damage, at least your main character has to be tanky, because you want to just be dealing DPS and not have to worry about the damage you're taking, while the little AI controlled characters are like scrambling around trying to dodge every skill, right? And so another problem was my main character was weak, and therefore she would die. And sometimes I was just going even with the boss and I wasn't countering the element, which meant I didn't get the 30% damage reduction, so I would die. And same with the AI controlled units. They wouldn't get it either. They would get hit by one single skill and then wiped out. So those are some issues that I had. And also the party buffs didn't really help each other. For example, in this team, range party buff and then earth party buff. Okay, cool. So these two help each other, right? But here you have 30% crit. Cool, helps everyone, but she gets nothing from Ayoba or Tinia. And then Arabelle, darkness, gives nothing, gives nothing, gives nothing. Although she does benefit from Tinia and from Akayuki's buff. But yeah, it wasn't all that great together. And I did try to match their chain skills, so usually I'd have that matching. But I'm telling you, this will not get you far. And so I started doing something else. I broke down my main team into their elements. For example, I mean right here I'm trying to make a fire team, but that's for the horizon tower, the fire tower. Although I will be using most likely this team or a team maybe with Lynn or some other fire unit for the next raid, which is supposed to have an earth boss, I think. Yeah, I think there's an earth boss next raid. But this is the team I used for the basic boss. This is a mono dark. I'll explain in a sec. This is this is the team I couldn't really get a good team around, so I just kind of stuffed them all together. And then you have an earth one with Coco. Again, I'll explain all of them. Let me get to explaining these teams. Okay guys, so for my main team, I have Vishvac in the front, I have Bari second, I have Beth third, and I have Eugene last. And so the reason why this is my main team is just because Vishvac, I got her weapon max limit broken. Same with Bari, not Beth and not Eugene. But why do I have Beth and Eugene? Because Beth, pretty strong champion, really good damage dealer. Eugene, she has a melee plus 50% damage, so that's pretty nice. And she's also one of the few heroes I have maximum broken, and so that's why that's my main team. Now, the issue with my main team is the elements. As you can see, you have fire, earth, dark, and light. Nothing is matching. So that's already an issue when going to fight a certain boss, because it gets to a point where some of my teammates are countered. If I go fight the basic element boss, Eugene, countered, although Beth counters. And so that's good and bad. However, if I go fight the water element boss, great for Bari, horrible for Vishvac. Even though she does get a little bonus damage in, it's still horrible because she's doing 30% less damage. So that's some of the issues with my team. Another issue with that is Vishuvac's damage bonus or party bonus is not a damage bonus. It's plus 40% HP. Not very useful. Bari's is skill attack plus 80%, which is pretty good. Not the best, but it's pretty good. And Bari's own damage is pretty high, so it's acceptable. We'll leave it at that. As for Beth, Beth has a great party buff. Can't deny that. You just make a melee team around her, perfect. Except Bari doesn't benefit from that at all. And that's a big boost. And it's even worse because Eugene also has it. And again, Bari doesn't benefit from that at all. And so at this point, we're talking about if we were to replace Bari with someone who was melee, even if they had, let's say Bari has 62k DPS, even if they had half of that, they would be doing the same amount of damage. And maybe they'd have a better buff, like Akayuki. Plus 30% crit, she does melee damage, so she gets the bonus. And everyone can use the crit bonus, which is, in my opinion, just as good as the skill attack bonus. Maybe even better in some cases. So that's my main team, and even though the damage is high, it doesn't mean it's the right team. So let me talk to you about the other team. So now, this is the team I'm going to be using against the basic element boss. So as you can see, everyone in the team is dark element, or this is a mono dark element team. The reason for this is actually two reasons. One, 30% more damage. Yes, that's nice and all, but the big difference is 30% less damage received. And why this matters so much is because if you're in a weak guild, you'll probably be fighting weak bosses, so it's not a big deal. However, if you're in a stronger guild, you're probably going to be fighting the stronger bosses, the ones that have massive HP bars and hit like trucks. So in order to survive that, not only are you going to want maybe someone that heals you or someone that's tanky, but you're also going to want basically anything that gives you more survivability. So you're not going to want to use heroes that, definitely not heroes that get countered, probably not heroes that are just normal. You want heroes that counter the boss so that they receive 30% less damage, because that's a massive buff. As for the party buffs, you know Beth has plus 50% melee attack, and as you can tell, well, okay, from this team, because I couldn't get the perfect team, from this team, two of them use the melee buff, which is nice. Then you have Lupina with the plus 30% crit hit chance. That's going to be pretty useful because that's a buff that everyone can benefit from. And then the two in the middle are Arabelle and Karina. Those two have the same party buff, which is supposed to be plus 50% dark attack, but Karina hasn't been maxed out, so she gets like plus 32%, which if you add it up, it actually feels like it's more than that when you see the damage number on the boss. But that's because you don't see a lot of plus dark attacks bonuses from things in Heavenhold. For example, down here, this doesn't give a element attack, and from collecting items and heroes, they also don't give element attack. They give regular attacks. So the element attacks are actually more meaningful. So if you have plus 50 dark attack, it's more meaningful than plus 50 melee attack. Although it says melee attack, so I can't say that for sure. Either way, point is, both of these useful for the entire party. Very nice. Although I will say, I have her weapon, but I have it on Lupina because I think Lupina does more damage. And so I just gave her the water one with a water necklace. Oh well, I hope that works. Now, I am trying to switch all my necklaces to mirror earrings so that they can all have as high attack as possible. Obviously, you want to farm any accessory that gives extra damage. But yeah, that's my team for fighting the basic boss. Perfect counter. Most of them are good. If I could replace anyone, maybe it would probably be replacing this chick right here, Karina, with, where is she? The Empire lady, right here, Shapira, the Dark Knight. Because she gets melee bonus, which okay, not everyone, but in her case, if she was in there, 3/4 of the team could use that bonus. And on top of that, she could use the bonus from Beth. And so I think that might be a stronger unit to put in. I'm not sure, I would have to test it. Probably not even worth spending the extra gems for maybe 5% more damage. Anyways, this is the dark team that I use on basic elements, and the damage might surprise you. Alright, so for my against the water element boss, this is the team that I use, and it's supposed to be sort of a mono earth team. Obviously, as you can see, I have Coco here, who is water, so it doesn't seem mono. But the thing with Coco is that not only does she have a party buff that kind of works, you know, skill damage up, which goes along with Bari's party buff, skill damage up. Again, not the best party buff, but that's not the point of Coco. The point of Coco is her auto attacks. So fires red ice shards that damages enemies and reduces the enemy's defense by 20% for 5 seconds. Let me put it to you this way. That little 20% reduction in enemy's defense for Coco is insane. For example, Coco has 18k damage, or let's say 19k here, okay? While Beth has 52k, and if you give her damage cards, it's like 54, maybe 55k. So, where's Coco? 19k to 52k. Neither of them counter the boss. But if you look at the damage, which I ran some numbers on the damage, and it's within 100k points on the Scarecrow. Like, it's that close. And she provides not much. Although I will say that Beth's melee attack buff is only utilized by Beth in this team. So there is that disadvantage. But in terms of just raw damage, like, Beth should have outdamaged her by a lot. But she just can't. The minus 20% defense for the enemy is just huge deal. Now, as for why I chose this team, it's because Bari, max limit broken. And so, you know, I kind of had to make a team around her, and I figured she counters the boss, so let me make an earth team. So Bari, you all know her, skill damage up. Coco, minus 20% defense, skill damage up. Everything else, whatever, you know. The defense is too big, so I have to have her in here. As for, what's her name? Tinia, plus 25% ranged attack. Wow, I need to get that higher. I thought that was better. So she's supposed to have like plus 50% ranged attack. 25 is really low. I haven't done the awakening, or at least not much awakening on her. I think I need to evolve her to 5-star before I can get it higher. I think that's the issue. Either way, counters the boss. Ranged attack literally helps everyone on this team. And then you have, what's her name? Ioba. Earth attack plus 40%. I think it can go a little higher, plus 44 or 45%. Either way, 3 out of 4 of my team members for this one gain damage from this buff. So really good party buff for this team. She's ranged, so she gets Tinia's buff as well. Everyone on the team gets Bari's and Coco's buffs, plus Coco's extra attack. This whole team just synergizes really well. And you might think, but wait, the abilities don't go off perfectly. Yeah, that is kind of true. Oh well, it's the best team I could make, so that's how it's gonna have to be. Alright guys, so this right here was my final team. And this one I really used it to fight kind of in the end and the two elements that I couldn't counter. You see, I didn't really have a team that countered the last two elements. This team was my underperformer team because it didn't counter any elements. But I had to get Vishu back in here because Maximum Broken Weapon, she's one of my highest level heroes, so had to put her in here. Eugene, I brought Eugene over from Beth's team because overall this raised my total damage by a little bit by putting Karina into Beth's team and taking Eugene and putting her near Vishvac to help out over here, because 3 out of 4 of them are melee and so they benefit from Eugene's buff. The one thing sad about Vishvac is that her buff is not a DPS buff, so she's gonna have to go in the future, preferably for someone like Lynn, which I do have. I just, you know, haven't put anything into her. I leveled her up, that's about it. Definitely replacing her with, let me see, where is she? Where's Plitvice? There we go. I evolved Plitvice, so I'm replacing Vishvac with her, probably for next raid, because even though she's gonna do less damage, her party buff is going to make a big difference in a fire element team. We also got Akayuki because of her plus 30% crit chance, and we got Maya, honestly because she was the strongest hero I had, so I had to put her in there. She really does not add much, except her party buff plus 80% skill attack technically does add some. I mean, everyone's skill can use it, so it's an addition. Honestly, this team is just, it's what I had left after everything else. I don't think I could have put up a better team, considering that my main characters were being used here and here, and I had nothing else. So this team did underperform. But anyways, let me show you the damage. So in terms of damage done to specific elements, the ones in the raid, which were fire, water, basic, and dark, my main team for fire managed to do 4.1 million. As for my team that I used to actually fight the fire boss was the Vishvac team, and that did 3.3 million. So from 4.1 to 3.3, that is a huge decrease. It's actually my worst result, so I tried to avoid fighting that specific boss because my teams, I didn't have a good team for it. Obviously a good team would be using Bianca, Marina, and Garam. Oh my god, and Rach, oh my god, if I had that team, the damage would have been insane. And by the way, stay tuned, I'm planning on getting them next time, because next patch they're adding all those heroes. Although I might not get them on my main account. No, I think I will. Let's hope I do. Let's hope I do. I'm going to be summoning for them, and hopefully I'll get 1, maybe 2 of them. Yeah. Anyways, as for the water boss, my main team did 4.3 million, and in that one, Vishvac was being countered. And by the way, for the fire one, Bari was being countered. And for the water team, the element that I used against it was Earth, which was Bari's team with Coco. And main team, 4.3 million. The element team that I used for it was 4.3 million. So it was just as strong as my main team, even though they had Coco, which had like, I mean, she wasn't there. She was just the buff. And it's like adding a plus, what was it? Minus 20% defense buff to the enemy and as a card. You just put it there and you have a team of 3. Like she did no damage. She wasn't there. And still managed to match my main team's damage. That's crazy. And then when I replaced, because I decided to do a little extra testing because her damage was just so low. I replaced her with with Beth. And if you look at Coco's damage, I mean, it's 19,000. And if you look at Beth, it's, with the cards, it's supposed to be like 54,000. So 19 to 54,000. And I think the damage that Beth managed to do was 4.2 million. The element team with Coco was 4.3. But the element team with Beth, significantly stronger Beth, was 4.2. So let me just tell you, that defense reduction is massive. And I mean huge. It is so large. It's insane. So yeah, definitely Coco, OP unit, must use in raid for sure. And then for the basic boss, of course, I used a mono dark team, and my main team managed to do 4.5 million damage on it. And mono dark shocked me because I didn't think they had it in them, and somehow they managed to pull 5.7 million. So not only did they match my main team, they surpassed my main team. And I will say, at one point when I had Eugene in the dark team instead of having Eugene in the Vishuvac team, it was doing more damage than that, like 6 point something million damage. But I ended up putting her in the Vishuvac team, and that ended up, it ended up, I don't know if it was better, but it was for sure at least breaking even. But Vishuvac needed that extra damage. As for Dark team, or the Dark boss, on my main team I did 5 million, which surprisingly was the highest. And on the Element team I did 4.1 million, which was the Vishuvac team. Of course, the team that was slacking. Surprisingly, not that bad, at least compared to the Fire team. Or was it? I didn't actually calculate the percentages, but it seems like it's not that bad. So that was probably the team. No, I'm pretty sure that was the team I was attacking the most with Vishuvac's team. So the thing to pay attention to is overall. Actually, let me do the math real quick right now. Yeah, so I just did the math, and if you add up all the elemental teams' damages, ignoring the fire one, which was, in my opinion, the worst, if you add all of them up, you end up with 4.7 million. Oh, my bad. If you add all of them up and then divide by 3, you end up with 4.7 million. So for my main team, if you do the same, you end up doing 4.6 million. So that means that my main team on average did 4.6 million damage, while my side teams, which were supposed to be weaker, but thanks to the elemental advantage, ended up doing 4.7 million. So they did more damage than if I had 3 of my main team, which that was not how I had my team at all. It was my main team and then 2 significantly weaker teams. So by spreading it out and making some side characters fit in with my main characters and making sure they all buffed each other and making sure that they went against the bosses that were the element that they countered, made a huge difference in my damage numbers at the end of the raid. Almost, just barely, almost doubling my total raid damage. And honestly, I just put in a few awakening stones into each of them, into each of the rare units. If I had maxed out all of them, and if I had given them all perfect gear and everything they needed basically, including the right equipment, because some of them didn't even have their weapons, they didn't even have weapons that matched the element, so they couldn't make full use of the buffs. If I had everything on them, they would have done a whole lot more damage. So consider leveling and putting at least damage and at least legendary awakening stones for the party buffs to some rare heroes for raid. Your damage is going to be much higher. And honestly, I don't think awakening stones are all that hard to farm. Legendary ones, they've made it easier to get in the shop. So basically what you need for raid is you want to split your main heroes to teams that counter the bosses. Then you want to make sure that the party buffs in those teams benefit at least most of the members in the team, and that they're damage oriented. Of course, you don't want to have like plus 50% defense from Ogma. That's not going to be very useful. Then make sure you have a decently tanky party leader. For example, kind of maxed out Vishuvac, that's going to be pretty tanky. A Beth, that's going to be pretty tanky. Bari is not very tanky, but at least in this raid that just happened, it was very easy to chain skill the boss and get him locked in there. And so he didn't get a chance to use his really strong abilities. So I'm gonna count that as Bari being tanky, okay? Then for stronger guilds, you want to have leveled up damage accessories so that your side characters are somewhat tanky. Because if you're putting damage accessories on them and they're like level 5 accessory, even though they give you plus 12% damage or something, they're not going to give you much defense. And so your team members, your little rare heroes that are AI controlled, they're going to get hit by 1 or 2 abilities. And if the raid bosses are really strong, it might just 1-shot them or 2-shot them, and they might not last the entire fight. Then you want to invest some awakening stones into rare heroes for damage and for their party buffs. And specifically the party buff one, that might seem really expensive because you might have to use legendary awakening stones. But if you save up your gems, you should be using it for legendary awakening stones. It's more useful than just summoning every single banner. And then the rest of your gems, use them for only like really important banners that are going to help you move forward, rather than just every new character that just came out. The last thing is a perfect team that perfectly synergizes and perfectly counters the boss, even with even with rare heroes, is better than a strong, like really strong, a much stronger full unique team, because the buffs really make a huge difference, and then countering the boss really makes a huge difference on top of that. So it's better to have rares that are slightly weaker but make a perfect team and perfectly counter the boss, because you're gonna end up doing more damage overall. Now this whole guide right here, or kind of guide thing, I tried my best. This whole thing, not perfect, so if you have any questions, put them in the comments down below. If you follow these steps and you make a team similar to the ones that I have, you should notice a big increase. You might want to put not just awakening stones into rare heroes. I mean, this should kind of just happen naturally as you're trying to evolve your your unique heroes. Your rare heroes should be fully evolved. Like I said, it should just kind of happen, so maybe I shouldn't include this, but make sure they're fully evolved. Some of them do need to be fully evolved to make full use of their party ability. And yeah, that's about it for this video. So hopefully this helps you guys out. If it helped you increase your raid damage and maybe helped your guild get a better score in raid, or maybe it helped you get into a top 50 guild or at least top 100 guild, maybe consider subscribing for more videos like these, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye bye.